Hi everyone. So season 20 has just ended yesterday on the Sunday as always, 21st of June. We don't know exactly when the next season is going to start, probably the 3rd or the 10th of July. People have some concerns about the 3rd because of the holiday weekend in the US. We'll see, but this is the expectation right now. And I just want to talk a bit about the season itself. I've already presented my personal journey when I actually quit the season around a month ago, and then I went for the PTR, and now I'm doing some PoE, waiting for the season 21 to start. And well, I have to say that I really enjoy it. So the whole season 20 was a blast for me. I also went with a big variety of classes. I've played everything besides the Crusader, which I've done a lot in season 19. So yeah, I played every other class this time, and I actually got really good ranks as well. So my Monk ended up at rank 2, which is nuts. And then we have the Barb at 8, we have the Demon Hunter at 5, which obviously is a quite underpushed class, but it was a multi-shot build and not the rapid fire that I played, so I'm very proud about that. And just in general, pretty decent stuff. But that is not really the main reason what I want to talk about right now. It's just more like how the theme and how the overall game was. And that was a thing that was pretty great. So yeah, I had a lot of doubts about the season theme when it came out. And for the first look, I have to say it looked really cool. So when I read the patch notes for season 20, I was like, wow, this is actually pretty amazing. But you know, on a second look, it was, yeah, actually it doesn't really do that much, right? It just changes a few builds around, and yeah, here and there you can get a little damage, and some classes can push a bit higher, but it doesn't really change much. And yeah, that's actually held true for most of the builds. So typically you placed some defensive armor slots with more damage to push a little bit higher. Which actually had the negative side effect that a lot of these high tier pushing builds were really inaccessible for like new players or less experienced players, and also lower Paragon players, because they simply didn't have enough toughness to actually play those versions in some cases. For example, when you compare the season 20 Barb, the 3 rings in the cube, to like the typical setup with S20 blades, giving you attack speed and armor and, you know, this kind of stuff, then also like no mental of channeling, you're actually a lot more squishy than what you would otherwise be without the season bonus. So in that regard, it actually made the gameplay probably worse for a lot of people, because yeah, you got higher, but you know, you were dying a lot. And this was already, you know, for those classes that I pushed, like Monk and Barb and so on, it was kind of like the limit of what you could do. And if you were like significantly lower, you would have trouble with actually like playing the build at you know, like a pushing tier where you would be competitive. But yeah, other than that, I think also a good part about it was that it showed us a little bit more of how much fun you could have when you can experiment more with the builds. So especially for T16 builds, I believe that the season 20 theme was really great, because, you know, there it doesn't really matter what is the best. You don't really, you know, need to stack a lot of damage and so on. So you actually had the option to go with like more utility, more speed, or something like that, whatever you like. And it didn't really matter too much. And this is really the great part, and I think this is something that for future seasons, maybe when they add more items or something, this could be something to be kept in mind. So not just for, you know, future games, but also for Diablo 3. We had like a patch a few seasons ago where you know, they introduced stuff like Echoing Fury and Messerschmitt's Reaver and this kind of stuff. I think it was like around season 17 or so. Also like the Squirt's Necklace and Flavor of Time and so on. And I believe that having more competitive options in these slots would be really useful for especially those farming setups, because there are actually a lot of builds that use these items. Also, like, you know, Echoing Fury, even, you know, even though it's in a weapon slot, it does find its place. And I think that we need more stuff that, you know, people can choose depending on, you know, what the setup is exactly, and then they can introduce it again. I wouldn't really advocate for, you know, keeping season 20 bonus permanently, because while it is fun and so on, in the end we would just have, you know, the new meta using all those slots in every place. And while that created some new builds, like, you know, the whole Necromancer stuff, basically like the Super Rats and the Death Nova, which is like dead now, and you know, some other stuff. For example, the Shenong Monk was also really fun. Yeah, I'm gonna miss that if I ever push that build again. But in the end, yeah, it's not really much different from the actual normal gameplay anyway. So that's fine. And I think that especially for those farming setups, it would be pretty cool to have more options. And there are, you know, a lot of armor slots, for example, that, you know, you are forced to use, but there's not really anything you like. there are many builds like that where, just have to go with something for the armor slot, and you're just unhappy with every single choice. And I think, there's tons of possibilities to, introduce some more of these, basic generic armor slots, especially, and also some weapons and maybe some jewelry even, that would actually have an impact on, what people would go for, how they would gear the character, how they would play a build. And maybe this is something that the devs could keep in mind for the future. So I think this is really like the best part about Season 20 and what it showed us, and maybe we'll see, some updates similar to what happened when they introduced the other items a few seasons ago. So this is basically what I had to share here. If you want to hear again about my personal season journey with my clears and so on, go check out the other video if you like. But I assume most of you have seen it anyway. And this is just like a few thoughts I had to share here on this occasion. So I hope you also see a little bit what I meant, and maybe you also have like your own story to share, your own, what you like, what you didn't like. Just let me know. I'd be curious to hear a little bit. And otherwise, see you guys next time.